Now, we know the deep state and the central bank's plan was to bring down the economy in 2020, bring us into a recession, blame it on Trump, make it look like his economic policies completely failed. It's because he was putting all these tariffs into place, because he was removing the globalist trade deals, setting up his own bilateral trade system, and everything like that. And this was the plan of the deep state, of the central bankers. And we can see that the entire economic system started to fall apart as the Fed was raising their rates. And they started raising their rates as soon as Trump came into the presidency. They raised it one time before Obama, but this was all planned. Remember, if Hillary was in the presidency, the economy would have been brought down, but it would have been blamed on a country, not on Hillary Clinton. This was planned. So they were taking that plan and they were using it in the same way where they're going to raise the rates throughout Trump's presidency and blame it on him. Q has told us that they knew of this plan. And we saw the Fed raising the rates. Real estate started to break down. Auto sales started to break down. We see that the credit markets right now, they have stalled. And this usually happens before the equity markets start to fall apart. And we've seen this before, but the central bankers, when the credit markets started to stall, they were able to reverse everything. Remember, the central bankers, they have put us into an economy where it's not an open and free market. They are in complete control of it. And this is why Trump continually refers to the magic wand. He has complete control of it. Think about what the central bankers have controlled. They controlled the stock market. They controlled, along with the government, the statistical information that is put out there. They've controlled the precious metals market. And they've controlled how all this works. Now, if something happens in Europe or someplace else, the Fed goes ahead and they inject currency into those central banks in different places. Now, we saw the interest rates moving up, and we knew there was a problem. We knew the economy was on a trajectory to enter a recession. And we know that the mainstream media, they put out article after article after article letting us know, we looked into a crystal ball. We know that in 2020 there's going to be a recession. The IMF came out and said, the global economy is slowing. And they knew exactly when all of this was going to happen. Remember, we're watching a central bank economy completely fall apart right in front of our eyes. They're completely exposed right now. And, of course, they were trying to shift the narrative and place it on Trump. Now, we see car sales, they're declining in Europe and in China. China just released their car sales for January. They fell about 17.7%. Now, this was expected, but you have to remember, what did China do in the month of January? Well, they injected a gargantuan money printing push to boost the entire system. Now, this was the biggest push that we've ever seen. Why was this done? Well, let's go back to post 2575. This was December 10th, 2018. And this says the plan to have the Fed raise rates, this is in brackets in bold, steep incline beginning March 2019, in an effort to kill the economy prior to 2020 presidential election, is known and planned for. Structure change coming very soon. So Q is telling us that they knew the Fed, with raising the rates as we've been seeing throughout the year of 2018, in 2019 was going to be the most incredible push in raising the rates that we've ever seen in our lives. Why? They were going to push it as hard as they possibly could to bring down the economy and blame it on Trump. This was their plan. So what happened? Trump came out and he continually contradicted the Fed over and over and over again. So now in the public's mind, every time something happens, the Fed is responsible. But when you look at the Fed meetings, what did they decide to do? They decided to hold on rate increases. The Federal Reserve held the target range for the federal funds rate at 2.25-2.5% during its first policy meeting of 2019 and reaffirmed its position to be patient about further policy firming in light of recent global economic and financial developments and muted inflation pressures. So right now, the Fed is in a holding pattern. They are not doing anything. Now, we are in the month of February. We're approaching the month of March. We were originally supposed to have an increase already. We didn't see it. Actually, there's really no talk of increasing the rates in March. I mean, we'll have to wait to see what happens and see if the Patriots are in full control, which I believe they are. If the Fed, or when the Fed, doesn't raise rates in March, that is a strong indicator that the Patriots, Q team, and everyone working on this, they are in full control of the Federal Reserve. They're dictating to them what to do. Now let's start putting all this together. Since the Fed is in a holding pattern, we're not going to see rates increase. If rates aren't increasing, we're not going to see a deterioration of the real estate market or the automobile industry or anything like this. Now we know that Europe's automobile industry and their economy, the emerging markets, they are slowing. China just injected their economy with a huge amount of currency, something that we've never seen before. So if the Fed is holding rates and China just injected all this currency, put these two together, what do we have? We have the makings of an economy that will not enter a recession in 2020. Now, what else can Trump do? The Patriots, what else can they do? Well, we know that they have full control over everything. What happens if gold and silver start to move up a little bit? Now, I just did an interview with Daniel Amaduri on the X22 Report Spotlight, and he said that the gold market is primed and ready to go active, and it's set for a bull market. Now, we know that gold and silver, they are manipulated. Who are they manipulated by? The central bank. What happens if that manipulation is eased off? What happens if gold is allowed to increase? And I'm not saying it's going to go up to 2,000, 2,500, but start to make gains. This will show that the Federal Reserve currency, well, it's worth less and less. Now, they don't want this to happen too quickly. Remember, they need to keep the recession at bay through the 2020 election. After that, it doesn't matter, because Trump would be in office. So if they allow gold to move up to $1,325, $1,375, $1,400, and by the time we hit 2020, maybe it's at $1,600, letting everyone realize and understand what is happening, that they're going to make a move on the central bank system. Because we have to remember, from Q, what will bring down the Fed? Gold. Once the elections are over and the Patriots are in complete and full control, they can then move on the Fed. And I believe before the elections, they'll be moving on the deep state. Remember, part of the plan is to go after every piece of the central bank and the deep state. I do believe they're going to make a play for the central bank right after the elections. And I believe they're setting it up right now to allow them to do this. I do believe that they're in full control of the Federal Reserve at this point. Because as you can see with China and with the Fed on hold with their interest rates schedule, that nothing is going to happen in 2020. The deep state, the central bank, their plan has been shut down. Now, to take this a step further, if their plan is shut down in 2020 and they don't have the ability to blame Trump for the economy coming down, and Trump continually puts out to the public that the economy is stronger than ever, guess what? The deep state is done. During this period of time, if there are arrests and the indictments are unsealed and the D-class comes out, guess what? The Patriots are in full control of everything at this point. And once they're in full control and they're making the arrests and they're showing what the deep state was up to, they are then free and clear to go after the source of the problem, and that is the Federal Reserve. That's why structure change will be coming, which I do believe they're going to be nationalizing, taking over the Federal Reserve, and eventually looking into what they've been up to. Because what better way to expose the Fed than to open their books and be completely transparent with the American people? Once they do that and they're completely transparent and we see exactly what they've been doing, well, the American people will be very, very angry with the Federal Reserve. And how do you move the people to that point? Well, you allow then the Fed to do what they do best: raise the rates, contradict them at every turn, have them bring down the economy. Remember, this is a central bank economy. Trump would be out there warning them that this is a big mistake. The economy's strong. Why would you be doing this at this point? And at this point, people, well, they'll start to realize that the Fed is a problem. Now remember, Trump has been planning for this. The Patriots have been planning for this, and they've been setting everything up to make the transition as painless as possible. I mean, is it going to be painless for every single person? No, it's completely impossible. But it's not going to be what we saw back in the Great Depression. It's not going to be what we saw back when we came off the gold standard. It's not going to be what we saw when we hit the recession in 2001 and 2008. This will be a little bit different because people will be angry. They'll have something in place, which is the gold standard or gold as a backstop for confidence building. They plan this all out to make sure that they're in total control. And their plan is to bring down and expose the Fed to the entire public. And eventually this will carry through Europe and many other countries. And we know that the central banks are very, very worried about this because they've been saying that they're very worried about their independence. They're worried about certain government forces taking control and dictating to them how to run their system. Well, I believe what's going to happen is that governments around the world, I'm talking about the people, the people's government, not the elites, they're going to dictate by taking over the central bank, and it will no longer be a private Western central bank. It will be a people's central bank. And what I mean by that is that these central banks, they will create currency without interest attached. It will not funnel up to the Rothschilds. They'll have nothing to do with it. And I do believe that we are headed in this direction, and we'll have to wait to see when March comes, and we'll have to see what happens with China with their injection of currency, because once we hit March and there's no increase and things start to look better, the credit markets start to look a little bit better, that tells us that the recession for 2020, well, Trump and the Patriots, they've put it on hold until after the elections, which means they shut down the deep state and the central bank's plan. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.
Is it to say that economic developments, financial crisis, stock market collapse speculations, changes in gold prices could lose all of your investments, or it can make you money. Financial Argument shares many experts' assessments and predictions about financial developments with you every day with current videos. All you have to do is follow the Financial Argument channel and subscribe to it. In order to support us, please do not forget to like our videos and comment on it with your own views. Finally, you can visit our website address, financialargument.net, and social media accounts for more financial news.